So we have three amazing panelists that are here, all from different companies. So do you guys just want to go ahead and introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about your company and then what you do there?
Sure, I'll start. My name is Brianna Scherneman. I am currently the accounting manager at Elecsys International. It's a technology firm out of Olathe, Kansas. It's a wholly owned subsidiary of a publicly traded company, Lindsay Corporation. And they offer technology kind of end-to-end solutions in the oil and gas industry and infrastructure as well. It's a company that's in major growth mode, was acquired by Lindsay about 5 years ago, and is at a really exciting time in their history. So I'm excited to be there, excited to be here, and hopefully, help you guys out with any questions you have about your careers in accounting.
Go ahead, Jack.
Hey everybody, Jack Fiscus. I'm with PricewaterhouseCoopers. I've been there about 5 years, a senior associate, hoping to make manager here pretty soon. And that's where I started back in 2015 out of college. I graduated from UMKC in 2014. The practice there is in Kansas City has a lot of asset management. So I've worked on some asset management, I've worked on some banking, as well as dipping into some SIPs and kind of consumer areas as well. But on the audit side, please don't ask me any questions about tax. I probably will not be able to help you, but happy to be here and answer questions as you guys throw them out there. So thanks, everybody.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nate White. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you letting me join. I'm not a UMKC graduate, but I'm married to one. So by association, I'm a RU. I met my wife when she was in grad school at UMKC, and been together ever since. I'm a senior manager at BKD. We're a national accounting firm, got about 40 offices in 18 states. So top 12, top 15 firm in the country. Primarily focused my time. I'm a member of the commercial services group there. So spend a lot of my time working on technology, manufacturer, distributors, software companies, professional services, et cetera. Spend about 20% of my time doing consulting work, transaction accounting, purchase accounting, process improvement, month-end close checklists, so on and so forth. But yeah, very excited to be here, and thanks for having us.
Awesome. I mentioned something in the chat, so if any of our students that are attending have any questions, feel free to just put them in the chat. I'll be happy to have our panelists answer those for you. I'll start us off with hopefully a not too difficult question. What is the most rewarding part of your job, and what is the most challenging part?
Sorry, is that just for any one of us, or?
If you all three would like to answer it, I think that would be great.
Okay. So for me, probably the most rewarding part is I really enjoy being able to work in the private sector. So being able to dedicate all of my time to my one client, if you will. So, is being able to make a difference that directly impacts their bottom line on a day-to-day basis, and really be able to feel 100% invested in one company. That's something that was important to me, and kind of has always been one of the guiding, I guess, principles within my career. And as far as what was the other part? Challenging, the most challenging. I would probably say maybe the monotony in being in one company. So, I mean, it's the flip side of the coin, right? So finding ways to, I guess, not be satisfied with the status quo and not get into a rut where you're doing the same thing every month end, but continuing to try to look at things with a fresh set of eyes and find ways to, kind of reinvent processes, rethink the wheel, especially after being at a company for a while. So yeah, I would probably say it's kind of the two sides of the same coin.
Nate, you want to keep? I'll go ahead, keep the same order. From a rewarding perspective, I enjoy coaching. I enjoy kind of teaching others that are coming into the firm and having questions. And so to me, that's a lot of fun and really great. It's become more of a challenge kind of as we get we get siloed and we're not able to come to the office and all sit in the same room and kind of interact. So that's certainly been a challenge for me. I think another benefit I really like about working at the firm is I think the average age is 27 or so. It's a very young feeling crowd. Just there's a bunch of associates and seniors, and as you kind of stay longer, it starts to thin out as you work your way up. So from a kind of culture and those around you, kind of the relationships that you build with your start class and others have kind of continued on for my 5 years at the firm. So that's been great. Challenging. There's so many things that you can work on and so many things that are going on that I think if you aren't really diligent about, hey, I'm interested in this and I'd like to work on this, you can kind of get lost in the noise. And so I think that's something that can be a challenge in public accounting, but at the same time, it's Brianna, you kind of mentioned the monotony. You come to work and you're working on something different every single day. So it's rewarding and also challenging at the same time. So it just kind of depends on how you look at it.
I'll reiterate what Jack said. Favorite part of my job and the reason I'm still in public accounting is development of people. It's extremely rewarding to invest in others and then see them grow professionally and then kind of reap the rewards of that work and have them serve your clients well and be on your teams. That's something that I've loved from the beginning of my time in public accounting. From a challenging perspective, I'd say it's prioritization. There's a lot of things you can do in a given day. At my level, I have technical accounting to do. I have review to do, coaching, marketing, prospecting, admin, and trying to find the right balance of when to do what is kind of always a juggling act. The good news is, like Jack said, every day is a little bit different. And the best news is the days just fly by. I'll look up at my watch and say, oh, it's quitting time. It's time to go home to something that's a little bit more important than just a job.
Thank you all for that. Another question that I think some students might have is, how did you decide public versus private accounting and what kind of helped you make that decision?
So I kind of have a really odd career path. I always knew I loved accounting. I took, we had a career center at my high school. So I took accounting 1 and 2 my junior and senior year of high school, and started working in accounting right after I graduated. So I got married my senior year, like right when I graduated, and went straight to work, kind of, my husband and I, to like build our lives together. So my college was delayed until after I put my husband through college, through law school, had a couple kids. And, in the meantime, I was kind of just working my way through, private accounting was the only option, basically. Obviously, you can't really go into public accounting without a degree. So then I kind of started taking classes online as my time allowed, and ended up going full-time to UMKC for my last 2 years, got my accounting undergrad. I think that was in 2017 when I finished that. And then I did get an internship at PwC and did that over the summer and received a full-time offer from them. And I really enjoyed it. And, everybody there was extremely smart, and it was a really great experience. And it really kind of satisfied that itch that I had to see, what public accounting was like. But ultimately, I just didn't feel like at this point, where I'm at in my life, that I could really devote the amount of time that it would take to, make an impact and do a great job for them. So I decided to just kind of stick with private accounting, went ahead and got my MBA and am working on my CMA right now. So I think just for me, I enjoy accounting that's a little bit more on the operations side. So utilizing my MBA, and I'm able to do that, where I'm at now. So ultimately, I think I kind of landed in the right spot.
Yeah, no, that's impressive. That's great. For me, public versus private, my kind of choice or election is kind of jaded. I have some family members that are in public accounting, and so if there was a choice, there wasn't really much of a choice, or didn't seem like a choice. It was kind of, I was going to go Big Four and kind of start my career with that path, because that was the trailblazers before me of kind of what they had done. Really, it's preference and where you feel comfortable, frankly, when it comes down to it. I think if you have the option for both and have the options for interviews and this or that, I think both are incredible options and good opportunities. They're very different, like Brianna said. But for me, my path was kind of chosen for me, I guess I would say.
So I actually began my career at PwC, worked with Jack when he started in 15 as well. And so I have a little bit of a unique career path. When I was graduating from college, I was fortunate to receive a number of different offers: private, public, regional firms, national firms, internal audit. And so kind of was able to weigh the options, and it didn't really for me come down to if I was working in public accounting or private accounting or whatever it was. It came down to people for me. I found a lot of people at PwC that I really connected with, and decided to accept the offer that they had given me, which was a fantastic experience. Spent a little over 6 years there, left as a manager, went into the corporate world, which is what Brianna does, had likely a similar role to what she's doing, and then recognized that I really missed public accounting. As crazy as that sounds, you don't hear the story very often, but came back to public accounting, joined BKD a little over 2 years ago, and have been extremely happy since then. To Jack's point about maybe the advice or for all of you sitting here listening to us, I would encourage you to interview with as many companies and firms as will have you. A, it's good practice. B, it's kind of fun. In a non-COVID world, you usually get some nice perks out of it, but that networking and that interviewing will just sharpen your skills to present yourself professionally, but then also it'll allow you to evaluate a bunch of different companies and firms and find out where you think your best fit might be.
Awesome. Thank you guys all for sharing your different perspectives and experiences and paths to where you are. It looks like we have a question in the chat. Would you recommend getting a CPA license if you already have 150, and obviously you need 150 credits? And would you recommend just getting a bachelor's or getting a master's as well?
I mean, I think it comes down to maybe personal preference. I don't know, maybe the other two guys could probably answer this a little bit better than I could, but I'll just basically tell you, I guess, what I ended up doing, and that's kind of all I could really say. So I didn't have any extra credits when I graduated with my bachelor's. So I basically, had to decide if I wanted to. I was leaning towards getting the master's in accounting. And then I ended up coming across this really great opportunity. UMKC had a really fantastic MBA program funded by Henry Block at the time. And so for me, I ended up deciding to get my MBA because I felt like instead of the MSA, I felt like it would maybe broaden my skill set a little bit more. And I felt like at that time I was planning on taking the CPA. And for me, the master's in accounting seemed to be so similar to the CPA that I thought it might make more sense to get the MBA and the CPA to have a little bit more, coverage on my skill set there. So, and then I haven't even taken the CPA. So now I'm taking the CMA. So I guess, to each their own.
Jack, do you want to take this?
Yeah, sure. So for me personally, I have a lot of affinity and would say go after your CPA. And this is strictly just kind of PwC view, but to get promoted to make senior, you need to have it. So it's something that's kind of eventually will become a requirement. If you have your 150 and you're thinking about it, and you have the time and effort and some money to put into it, absolutely, I'd say do. It's a kind of respected credential across all brands, and that as long as you're keeping your CPA up, you'll maintain it forever. As it relates to, I think, the secondary question about masters, from where I sit and those I see, yes, a lot of folks go ahead and get their masters in accounting. That's not a requirement, really. The folks that I talk to and I see is more you're sitting at 120 or 125 and you need another 30 to get to the 150 credential limit. What do? Do I go MBA or do I go master's, and do I even need a master's in accounting? At that point, it kind of becomes preference. I think from if I have my PwC hat on, they would tell you, yeah, you want masters in accounting. That's great. You know, it's more accounting. Frankly, it's more about preference and kind of where you see yourself over the next 5-10 years.
Say just a little bit. I've had a personal experience. I got a master's in accountancy. It was purely to get me to 150 hours and to prepare me for the CPA exam, because I knew that was a strong possibility of me going into public accounting. That said, I have two friends from high school. We all graduated together from different schools. One worked at Deloitte, the other one worked at EY. And just because of how they were able to take classes, neither of them had their masters, and that didn't hinder them one bit. To Brianna's point about if you're looking at getting an MBA, that's going to be more of a professional development. And you're gonna learn more from that from a business perspective, but it's not going to be as accounting focused. It's also not going to probably help you with your MBA, or I'm sorry, with your CPA quite as much. So pros and cons across the board. And Brianna, I don't know, MBA tends to be a tiny bit longer. My understanding.
Yeah, I think the program I was able to do was an intensive full-time year-long program. So for me, it only took a year, but it was a little brutal. So
Okay, I was about to say that sounds terrible.
I survived.
So Fiona, I see here you're asking what two things have been most helpful to you in working your way up in your accounting careers. I'll go first with this one. Hopefully you won't steal anything from Jack and Brianna. Lots of stuff has been helpful. I'd say the two ones that have probably taken me the farthest or made the biggest difference is having a good attitude. It seems stupid, it seems minuscule, but I've received some feedback that like, hey, when we're working whatever hours or it's whatever time of night, you still got an upbeat attitude or still trying to just, push forward. That makes a huge difference, because we do work on teams, we do work on clients, and you can choose how you react to the situation. So that's all the way from being an intern all the way up the chain as you progress in your career. And that isn't specific to public accounting or private or anything like that, or even in the accounting industry in general. The other thing I would say is say yes when opportunities come up, even if you're not really sure. If somebody's asked you to do something, a job that Jack and I worked on together, I got asked to work on that, and I wasn't exactly super thrilled with the idea, but said yes because I was being asked, and it ended up being a very meaningful career development experience for me.
So yeah, I mean, mine's kind of a little bit similar to Nate's. I would probably say adaptability. So, I mean, I think, and that goes to your point of having a good attitude when things are thrown your way, always being up for a challenge, even if it's something you haven't done before, kind of taking the time to dig in and figure it out, and being a yes person when you're asked. And then I would probably say the other thing would be just determination to, get through all those, the busy seasons or the long nights, the month end closes where, you're there till midnight or whatever. And then also just, to my career path specifically, like just not giving up. There's always going to be obstacles that you're going to encounter, whether it's with your, education or taking the CPA or whatever it may be that you kind of have your mindset on. But having that determination and the work ethic behind it to make sure that you accomplish your goals, I think is key.
Yeah, lots of good points already thrown out. For me, I'll kind of layer on in one and maybe throw out a new one. Kind of attitude and golden rule, whether you're working with folks that are on your team or working with folks that you're client facing. It's how you treat people. So yes, we all are working hard. We're all working late, lack of sleep. Things can go wrong. Anything and everything imaginable can happen in an audit. So again, having, like Nate said, showing up with a good attitude, as well as kind of that willingness to work, it will show through and kind of be a light for a team if things are going wrong. Other thing is when you guys graduate, I don't expect you to know all the answers. Nate and Brianna, that their levels will not expect you to know all the answers, and that's completely fine. So reaching out for help when needed. Now there's a kind of a right way to do it, and you guys will certainly learn that. But again, there's so many different things out there, so many different situations, transactions, businesses, industries, etc. when you graduate, yes, I expect a kind of a baseline, but also having a kind of an upbeat attitude, as well as kind of that willingness to say, hey, I think I understand, but can you explain this kind of a little further? That also goes a long way.
So thanks, everyone. Kind of going off of that, so along with that baseline or going above that baseline, what are a few skills that you recommend students have that they graduate with that will help them in their careers?
I'll kick this over to you guys to start.
Yeah, sure. I can go first. Nate already kind of touched on it. Interview as many places as possible. Baseline for me is that you can communicate effectively, and that I'm not scared is probably the wrong word, but I'm not kind of adverse to putting you in situations where you're going to talk and ask questions of a client. So communication at the forefront. Again, a good attitude, kind of coming to work every day. To me, those are those are musts. Nate, I don't know if you'd kind of layer on anything from a kind of senior manager level.
Yeah, I would say that the interns or associates that come into our firm and the PwC that were most successful were the ones that really wanted to learn and were humble and recognized they don't have all the answers and asked a bunch of questions and were just eager. That excitement, I understand it's auditing. It's maybe not the most exciting subject on the planet, but it is a career that can be really rewarding, and we're paying you, I think, a pretty substantial wage to do the work, and you're getting to see a lot of things that people your age don't generally do. And so, I always say have a good attitude, be willing to work hard, and ask a ton of questions, and you'll be wildly successful.
I would agree with all of that. I think curiosity is a big one. So, not just asking questions when you're confused, but trying to understand the why behind what you're doing. You'll learn so much faster, and you'll retain the knowledge so much better when you really get that understanding under your belt of why you're doing what you're doing. And then also, I would say, to take notes sounds really bad, but like when you have questions, try not to ask the same question, a whole bunch of times. Like take the time to jot something down, or, put something in your note file or your calendar or whatever it is to kind of refer back to, and then, refer back to those before you, always just ask the question. Questions are great, but the same question a whole bunch of times can get a little frustrating, especially when you can avoid it.
For sure. Thank you all. Kind of switching gears a little bit. I know that like COVID-19 has affected the way that a lot of businesses are doing things. How has that affected like your careers and what your everyday work has looked like?
So for me, I actually got the job that I'm at now during COVID. I was prior to where I'm at now, I was at Barkley, which is an advertising agency in downtown Kansas City. They have a lot of really big clients. But I had been there about 3 years and really enjoyed working there, but had kind of been looking for a couple of months prior to COVID, and was, not really willing to make the switch unless kind of the perfect opportunity arose. So, yeah, I was just continued to look during COVID while I was working from home, and, this opportunity kind of presented itself, and, did a bunch of the interviews virtually. And so they're deemed an essential business because they are a tech manufacturer. So, they have a plant that's operating daily still, and most of the workers there, like the office staff, is working from home. But so I kind of chose to go into the office. There's not that many people there, and I wanted to be able to make connections with the people that were there at a new job. So, but I have that flexibility, and because we serve the oil and gas and agriculture industries, COVID has affected Lindsay Corporation a bit, but actually just came off of a really strong year despite COVID, and projections for this next year are looking pretty strong. So I feel like, luckily I landed at a place that, is kind of doing okay in spite of COVID.
Good question. From the macro level, I think there's certainly a lot more emails that get sent out about all the different COVID alerts and from upper level management. kind of jokes aside, from more kind of our level and what we see on a day-to-day basis, technology is great. We can sit here and have this meeting. To me, it doesn't replace the human interaction and kind of the conversations. And again, sitting in a room, whether you're private and kind of in company level or public and auditing world, sitting together as a team and learning and just soaking up knowledge, even if you're not the one asking the question, you're just listening. To me, that's probably the biggest thing that I've seen that's been a challenge, where we're all siloed in our own bubble. And so we kind of, that piece gets missed. But no, from a macro perspective and PwC, I don't know that anything has really changed from a hiring perspective or from a compensation perspective. I think there's been some kind of minor freezes here and there, but for the most part, that's more affecting kind of our advisory practice than the auditing practice. So
I was about a week or two before COVID hit, I was in Long Island, New York with a client, and after the fact realized that I'd probably gotten out of there just about in the nick of time. So I worked at home for about 4 or 5 months exclusively, got the monitor set up, picked up everything from the office, and the firm was really great. Our CEO came out very early and said, hey, here are our priorities. First are our people, their health, their safety, their well-being. Second's our clients and just continuing to serve them really well. And then third is the kind of economic impact to the firm as a whole. And they've stayed true to that throughout this whole time. So to Jack's point about, raises and hiring and stuff, that's, maybe little delays here or slight glitches just because you want to make sure that you're being prudent, but nothing from a major perspective. We have new hires. I'm interviewing interns, candidates as we speak. Did 2 or 3 of them yesterday. And so we're continuing to move on from a business perspective. We're fortunate, or I feel fortunate, that the firm made the decision here a couple months ago. We're the largest CPA firm in Kansas City, which I didn't know before I joined the firm 2 years ago. And so we have 3 full floors in the Stinson building downtown, right next to Power and Light. So we have lots of room to spread out. We have nearly 300 people in the office. Not all of them are coming in. But because of that, we've been back in the office for coming up on probably about 2 months, 2 to 3 months, tax a little bit longer with the deadlines, but I'm able to go in as much or as little as I want. I was telling these 3 before all of the students hopped on that, I was in the office yesterday. I'm at home today. I don't have a bed in my office downtown. That would be very dangerous. And I've actually been to a handful of clients. We're not pushing out there, but if clients want us to come out and they're able to kind of keep up with the protocols that we set, be safe, have plenty of room for us, wear masks, all the things the CDC recommends, then we'll go to those clients if it makes sense to do all that.
Kind of following up on all of the things that you guys have been talking about, what would you say is the best approach to ask questions and to learn as much as possible in a partially or completely virtual environment?
I might go first here. So Brianna, you hit the nail on the head. I'm taking notes. That's something I do. So I would tell you guys, again, if you're not a note taker, there whether you go private, public, wherever you are, unless you are a beautiful mind, there are things that taking notes to me helps. So that's an area that I think it's just something that now becomes second nature. Is when we start a conversation, you got to do it. And Brianna, I don't know if you would kind of, what are the things that you kind of look for or work on, but
yeah, can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
It was, how do you ask questions, or what's the best approach to ask questions and learn as much in a virtual environment?
Sorry, I have my kids walking around in the background. So virtual environment is just, it's interesting. So for me, we already kind of hit on the notes thing. I think that I just find it helpful to aggregate my questions. So, everybody's higher ups are always crazy busy, and people don't want to be pestered every 5 seconds, when the question pops into my head, on Teams, I can't just get on there and type it in and get my answer. So what I try to do is I usually have, a couple calls, or at least one call with my boss a day. And I try to, just compile all of my questions and then, kind of hit them with them all at once while we're chatting live. It seems to be And I think it's also, you know, you kind of have to accommodate your boss's preferences, right? So some people prefer to have those questions emailed, and that's kind of just something that you typically figure out, you know, or you can just ask them when you start the job, like, you know, do you prefer, you know, for me to email you my questions, or would you rather us, you know, have a video chat? But you know, my boss prefers video chat. I think it's more efficient for him to just talk through, you know, questions and issues than it is for him to read a long email and then type a long email in response. So.
I don't have anything to add. I think you guys answered that well.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. It looks like Fiona had another question. She asked, have you ever made a big mistake on the job or been in an uncomfortable situation while working? How are you able to deal with it and bounce back?
I'll start with this one. I had a situation about a month into COVID where I had a mistake I made that I was just moving too fast and missed something I shouldn't have missed. And that's why the public accounting review process works. The partner I was working with caught it, and it was just something I shouldn't have missed. And then similar with had a client communication issue that probably fell on my shoulders. And both of those kind of hurt because everything was going quite well. But what I went back to was it's unrealistic to think that we're going to do our job 100% perfect all the time. And that's maybe an unrealistic expectation that's out there because you have all these high performers, type A personalities. You're being told, you know, throughout all of college and high school that you're so great, but this is a learning apprenticeship industry. And so because of that, when you make a mistake, the best thing you can do is learn from it, admit you screwed up, make changes and move on. And so that's what I did. I said, hey, that was my fault. I moved too fast and I missed that. And here's how I'm going to fix it. And let's move on. And that worked extremely well. I look back on those types of things and I know that made me a little bit of a better professional. And I'm definitely never going to make that mistake again.
Yeah, I'd echo Nate there. I mean, I think my answer would basically be identical. I think ownership when you make a mistake is key. And also, you know, don't be afraid to, how should I say this? To basically out yourself. If you discover you make a mistake, you know, you should tell your boss, hey, I made a mistake, you know, like you should tell them right away. And so of course I've made mistakes, and my approach has always been to, you know, if I'm the one that catches my mistake, is to tell my boss, hey, this is the error I made. This is how I'm going to make sure it doesn't happen again. You know, these are the mitigating factors that I put into place to not make the mistake again. And, you know, and kind of just take ownership of it, you know, and be very straightforward. So I don't think any boss has the expectation, you know, that there aren't going to be mistakes made. And oftentimes I think those are some of the best ways to learn, are to make mistakes, because it really sears into your brain not to do that again. So yeah.
To Brianna's point, what's very forgivable or understandable is, hey, I screwed up. We need to fix this. Can you help me? What's not forgivable is I screwed up. I recognized it and I didn't tell you, or I tried to cover it up. Like that stuff's there's no place for that in our profession. And so being forthcoming, and to Jack's point earlier about just being an effective communicator, I'm sure that that's happened with me on my team a number of times, and I just haven't even noticed it. You know, maybe some senior associate made what they thought was a huge mistake, brought it to me, and I said, all right, let's fix it and we'll move on. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, you guys answered the question really well. The only thing I'll add on is when you start, you're going to be in a room full of overachievers, whether they're at your level or above your level, your accounting manager, your controller, your CFO. If you're in a room in the accounting profession, more than likely you're in a room full of overachievers. So again, I don't expect perfection from the guys that start, nor do I expect the perfection from those above me. Mistakes happen. So, and they hit the nail on the head again, just owning mistakes rather than attempting to sidestep or cover up or look for blame is probably the best approach. And again, we're one team, we'll move forward with it. So that's kind of how I see it.
Great advice, everyone. It looks like we had a question from Toffer in the chat. He said he's a finance student and he was wondering if there's value to the CPA CFA combination in Kansas City.
Yeah, maybe I'll go first quickly. And Brianna, you might have a different flavor with MBA and kind of other things. There are a few folks in our office that have both. I think it depends on the clients you work on and the industry you're looking to go into. Again, it's another credential that carries a lot of weight. At the same time, though, if you get your CFA and you're only working on, say like manufacturing clients, then it sometimes can be interesting. It seems like, again, you're saying you've passed 2 CPA already, and I guess you're looking to start CFA. Is that right?
Yes, I'm actually scheduled to do the first CFA exam this February.
Okay. I think that'd be great, but best of luck. I know personally PwC doesn't reimburse for CFA like it does CPA. So if that's a deterrent, something to think about, it kind of maybe you can work that into whoever you're looking to work for or work towards. But for me personally, I think if you have the time and can do it, that's wonderful. It's another tool in your belt.
I'll agree with that too. There's probably not quite as much of a market for CFAs in Kansas City, being a smaller metropolitan area. But what that does tell me is, as you're going through the interview process, if you're going to do the CPA and CFA, that tells me quite a bit about your intellectual ability, your work ethic, so on and so forth. And so none of that is a bad thing. But yeah, best of luck to you. That's quite a plate.
Yeah, I don't think I have much to add to that. I mean, I definitely don't think an additional credential would ever hurt you. And, could definitely bring up some additional talking points in your interview. So it sounds like you're kind of on your way to doing that. And yeah, good luck. Sounds great.
Thank you.
Yes, maybe one last thing I'll say too is with a CFA designation, you might have opportunity to transfer into some of the specialty groups, right? Talking about transaction services or diligence, valuation, capital advisors, forensics, so on and so forth. Some of those secondary designations are helpful there. And most firms, including BKD, we have those in Kansas City, or you may need to transfer to another city. But starting with a firm, they tend to want to keep good people there. And so if that means that you spend a couple of years in audit and then go do something else, that's a pretty common career path.
Thanks, everyone. Another question that I had kind of along the lines of interviewing, which you guys have brought up a few times, what's something that students can do to really stand out in an interview, especially in like accounting?
In the COVID environment or just in general?
What about both?
Oh gosh.
I think I think confidence is key, but a humble confidence. And I think also personality. I mean, I feel like most of the people, that interview for a job, that by the time you get to the interview portion or to that stage, the resumes are all pretty similar, and the people that you're interviewing, that you're taking the time to interview, are all pretty well qualified for the position. So I think a lot of it comes down to your ability to display your confidence, in the right way, and to be able to communicate properly, and not be extremely nervous in an interview, which is always hard. The more you try not to be nervous, sometimes the more nervous you get. But I feel like if you've made it to the interview phase, that you're probably qualified for the job, and they're probably just seeing how you would fit in with the team. And so, trying to layer in personal stories along with your technical qualifications, I think can really make you stand out. That's what I look for in an interview, is kind of how would this person fit on my team? How would they work with the people that I already have? What would they bring to the team, either in life experience or work experience that we don't already have? Maybe a missing piece that could strengthen our team.
Brianna makes a great point about the fact that if you get the interview, you're technically qualified. So I don't need you to list off your GPA or your work experience. I probably have that on the resume. Couple of things that I see in high quality candidates are enthusiasm. It seems silly, but it kind of goes back to that positive attitude. Interviewing is a little bit like dating. And if you're enthusiastic and have that genuine interest of, hey, I really think this firm or this company is a great fit for me, and here's why, and I've done my research and I've talked to people there, I've asked questions, or here's something I learned in an earlier interview that really stood out to me, tell me more about that. That shows a genuine interest, and it makes me more interested in developing that with you, because hopefully you're going to take that same enthusiasm to your job full time when you come and work with us. The other thing I will say too is asking questions that, how do I want to phrase this, maybe truly matter to you, or asking questions that are maybe a little unique. I've done 5 interviews in the last week, and I feel like all 5 of them asked 2 or 3 of the same questions, which is fine. Career centers are trying to help them out. But, you know, if you want to know about travel, ask about it. If you want to know about hours, ask about hours. If you've got an area of interest to you, being passionate about that and wanting to talk about that subject is going to stand out so much more, because you're going to be genuine about it, as opposed to, I got a sheet from my career center and I'm going to ask these 3 questions. I know how to answer them. That makes it easy on me. But when somebody asks a hard question, that makes me stop for a second and say, okay, they're really interested. They really want to know what's going on here.
Yeah, Nate, I would second that. Again, kind of, you mentioned genuine interest. You can get in certain kind of interview patterns where the folks are asking you the same thing over and over again of, well, what do you do at the company? And, you know, what's your day to day, and this or that. And again, those are easy, you know, home run. But at the same time, those that kind of ask a little bit different question, or again, if you really want to know about PwC benefits and what how that differs between X, Y, and Z, I'm okay if you ask me hard questions. I'm sure, you know, both Brianna and Nate are the same way. Hard questions are good questions. If we don't know the answer, we'll certainly get back to you. So don't be afraid. If something that is very important to you in the interview process, don't be afraid to ask it. For me, one kind of secondarily, it seems second nature. COVID environment that sometimes kind of changes things. Dress up for your interview. That might be silly for me to point out, but look more professional than the person interviewing you is kind of the simple way to say it. So if I'm wearing a button up, wear a tie. Again, if you're serious about the job, dress like you're serious, in my opinion.
I'll say one last thing. If you guys have interviews coming up, one of the best questions I ever get, and you feel free to steal this, but I've had a couple people ask me, what's your least favorite part of your job? And that seems like maybe a negative question or something like that, but that tells you that, again, they're being realistic, that the job isn't all roses, and they want to know, hey, what part of your job sucks and how do you deal with it? And that's a real question, as opposed to, tell me about the culture at your firm, which again, I'm happy to talk about that. And I've answered that question, you know, tens of times, but some of the more unique questions are really good. I had someone, a college student, ask me and said, I want to be a partner at a public accounting firm. What does that take? I was kind of taken aback, but then I went through and I said, hey, I don't know everything behind the curtain, but let me share with you. And I'll be honest, I went into the partner's office that also interviewed that individual, and we talked about them, and that stood out to us. So just getting a little bit of behind the curtain for you all.
One last question that I think would be really helpful for the students to hear. As a manager or a team member, have you ever worked on a team that wasn't a great fit for you, and how did you handle it?
Okay, so yes, I think maybe not like a full team that wasn't a good fit, but you know, I've definitely had like a team member here and there that maybe weren't the best fit for the rest of the team. I think it just comes down to, you know, attitude and diplomacy. So, you know, you can't control who you work with all the time, especially if they're a colleague, you know, or a boss. So I think all you can control is yourself. So that's just kind of the attitude that I come to work with, is to be positive, to focus on my work and my contributions to a team, and, you know, just basically kind of try to ignore any negativity from other team members. So, I mean, that's just, you know, par for the course in personal life, work life. There's always those people. Everywhere you go, there's going to be one.
Yeah. I've heard this once before. Sometimes your engagement team is kind of like your family. You don't really get to pick your family. Sometimes you love them, and sometimes they drive you crazy. But that's part of being a professional and coming to work every day with a good attitude that can shine through. Again, you're going to find different personalities, both good and bad. You're going to find folks that you want to emulate because you like the way they do business. You're going to learn from the folks that maybe perhaps aren't your style. It's kind of a part of it. And again, if you can work through a situation where maybe the team isn't your favorite, frankly, I'm kind of in a situation with that right now on a newer client. It happens. You see that, okay, this is going to be a finite period of time, and I can do my best to come to work with a good attitude and do my best and work through it. And at the end of the day, we'll get the job done, and we can kind of see what else is out there. That's just kind of, again, part of life and part of kind of working with those around you is kind of getting more accustomed to that and learning from your experiences.
Yeah, I'll say experience I've had where I haven't necessarily loved my team or had a great fit. I look back and I've learned something pretty meaningful from them. To give you a real life example, I did a technical accounting project in Chicago when I was a first year senior at PwC, and the team and I just didn't gel. And I'm not really sure if it was me or them or some combination, but not important. What is important is looking back on that. I got to learn that technical area really well. And so now when I've seen it on my clients, I have that reference point. So that was positive. But then more broadly, I now know when I'm working with people from other offices that they don't always feel welcome, or they might not always feel like part of the family, part of the team. And so I make a really big effort when we're coordinating with other people in other offices that I've met or not met, just to bring them in and say, hey, you're part of the squad. What can we do to help you out, and try to pay that forward so somebody doesn't have that same experience.
Great. I think Fiona had one other question that she wanted to ask.
Hi. So my question is about busy season. So in the office that I will be working with, I heard stories about like sometimes we could be up working till 2 a.m., 3 a.m. And just based on like my limited college experience, I know during finals week, your head is like fuzzy and you're just like trying your best to just like push through. So how are you able to get your job done and do it well and still remain mentally sane when you're working like insanely long hours and you need to be back at the office at like 9 a.m., 8 a.m. the next day?
Let you guys take this.
So Fiona, would you be willing to share what firm you're working with?
I will be starting at Deloitte.
Okay, so as you know, I'm a PwC alum. Jack's currently at PwC. Brianna actually interned there. So I won't speak to anything about Deloitte, but I will know that at PwC during my time there, we were actually making a move and a shift to try to think smartly about, is working till 2 a.m. really necessary? And I hope you experience the same thing. I mean, the Big Four tend to do things pretty similarly, but a partner that I worked for specifically came in and he goes, hey guys, why are we working 80, 90-hour weeks? Is that really the best way to serve our clients? Is a 14-hour day really that much better or that much more output than a 12-hour day or a 10-hour day or whatever it is? Yes, it's extended hours, but the 2 a.m. thing, like why? Was it not planned? So on and so forth. So again, I've been out of Big Four for about 3 years, so I don't know what that shift is. I know my current firm, we're still on that, where we don't ever want to tolerate someone working till midnight to 3 a.m. because there's probably a reason it could have been avoided. Now, let's be realistic. I have friends that worked at Deloitte. I have friends that worked at Big Four in New York City. There's probably a decent chance you're going to work until 2 a.m. And if that is the case, I'd encourage you to think smartly about some of the other parts of your life. When I was a first year associate, I had a really terrible busy season with a lot of hours. And so I tried to focus my time and attention for that short period of time on really devoted to work. And so I cut out a lot of other things. I tried to make things efficient, try to think about what I ate, when I was sleeping, if I could find time to exercise, some of those things, because yeah, you're being asked to perform an extremely high level for a number of hours that is a little bit outside the norm. Now, the one great part about it is if you're working until 2 a.m., you're probably working with a team, and it's kind of fun. It's kind of like, I don't know, a slumber party seems like a weird example, but like there's a sense of camaraderie. If you're going to be there until, again, we keep saying 2 a.m., if you're there with 10 other people and they're all young and everybody's, we do stupid stuff like, okay, midnight, we got to stop and do a snorkel break, just something to break up the monotony, and, pizza and cake comes in, there's food everywhere, just fair warning if you guys go. But anyway, sorry, I rambled there for a minute. You'll be fine. You UMKC has prepared you well for it. Just keep positive attitude and you're good. Jack, what did I forget?
I need some pizza and cake at this point.
Yeah, I know, right?
You know, Fiona, good question. I think there's lots of different factors that would lead to that point. To me personally, Nate's right. Kind of the shift has been in recent years of, I'll kind of call it like understanding the why. If you've got seniors and associates that are working till 1, 2, 3 a.m., is the deadline tomorrow and it has to be done? Or is there other kind of factors out there that kind of led to that point that it should be fixed the next time and it shouldn't come up? I don't think there's a partner, whatever firm you're at, whether big four or non-big four, that expects you to show up and be, hey, I'm ready to work till 2 a.m. here come busy season. That from an efficiency standpoint, you start to lose stuff, in my opinion, after 10 o'clock at night. You just do. So I think your notion of kind of having a fuzzy head, I agree that happens. But kind of back to Nate's point again, the camaraderie as the team can make things better. How you kind of roll with the punches and deal with that. What I would say is kind of attempting to understand why it's happening. Not, hey guys, we need to work late tonight. We're going to stay till 2 a.m. Okay, that's interesting. Again, is the deadline tomorrow? Are we behind? Is that just the general expectation? If that's the general expectation, conversation probably needs to have with somebody like that. That shouldn't just be, hey, it's happening. Now, when you get to, again, New York is different than Kansas City. Deloitte is different than BKD, different than PwC, different than private. So again, they could do things differently. But that's kind of my initial thoughts is, yes, it does happen. It can happen. Having a good attitude as best you can, as well as looking for opportunities to kind of go, hey, we did it one way for a week and it wasn't working and now we're late. I'll learn from that. We're not going to do that again, and bringing that up to those around you, whether it's a senior or the manager level, going, hey, we can learn from this. We can do better. But to me, that's a positive if a staff is giving me that feedback.
Thank you.
Awesome. Do we have any other last minute student questions?
I had a quick one. This one's driven more towards public. So I'm someone who thinks probably I'm going to go Big Four to start, probably PwC. I know you talked, Jack, about the reimbursement program for the CPA. What's what timeline would you recommend for getting that done? Like, would you recommend getting maybe 3 knocked out before you start and then getting that 4th while you're at PwC to get the reimbursement? Or if you just have it, will they automatically reimburse you even if you already have it before you start there?
So yeah, I think I'm not as fresh on the numbers. I think if you pass within a year, they'll reimburse you. And I think the bonus used to be kind of around 5,000. I don't know kind of how COVID has affected that number. And 5 might be a little too high. Maybe it's more like 2.5 or 3. But what I would tell you to do and encourage you to do is, if you can pass all 4 before you start, pass all 4. If you can pass 1 before you start, pass 1. I don't know that there needs to be a number in mind of, hey, I need to pass 3 to make myself feel comfortable. Busy season is going to be upon you kind of as you start in the fall. If you start in the fall or even start in January, busy season's coming. So I would encourage you to get as many knocked out as you can before you start. Start with FAR, start with reg, start with some of those kind of bigger exams, if you want to call them bigger exams, that kind of take a little more time, a little more kind of bandwidth up here. But no, I don't know that you need to have a number in mind of how many you want to pass. I'd say knock them out as best you can so you don't have to worry about them.
Thank you.
Awesome. Any other student questions before we go? No? So one last question for our panelists. Last minute piece of advice that you'd recommend for our students? Anything?
Keep going to class.
Yeah, you guys are doing the right thing.
Isn't going to class a relative term right now?
Keep mentally showing up for class.
Yeah, there we go. I would say, keep doing what you're doing. Be inquisitive. There's a lot of opportunities out there. You guys are high achieving students at a really great school. And so there should be a ton of opportunities for you to do and ask questions, meet people, do these types of things, and reach out to your network. If you know people that work in corporations and accounting, or even not, say, hey, can you connect me with someone? Because folks like us are always willing to take a well, now, Zoom meeting or socially distanced coffee or whatever we do now, and pay back or pay forward some of that advice. I'll also say, Erica, thank you very much for moderating and having us. This was a really cool event, and you did a great job.
Thanks. Jack or Brianna?
Just going to say to keep in touch with faculty and with the Career Center when you graduate UMKC. I think there's so many ways that they can help you grow your network, help you with job opportunities in the future. So really invest in those relationships. It's probably harder to do now that you're virtual, but take the time to make an impact on your professors and the faculty, specifically within the accounting department, while you're at UMKC, and feel free to leverage those relationships, after you graduate.
Yeah, I'll echo. Again, everybody that you meet is a relationship. So kind of golden rule, whether you're working with them or, again, there's a friend you went to college with, or so-and-so knows so-and-so, and now we're friends on LinkedIn. I don't know anybody around me that won't take 15 or 20 or 30 minutes out of their day and have a conversation, whether it's in person or virtual, to kind of, if you have questions, and again, kind of, I'll say grow the network. But sounds like a bad hashtag, but it really is. Again, I don't know a partner at the firm that won't say, hey, I'm busy all day, I can't talk about X testing, but hey, I have a question about a job opportunity, or I have a question about kind of XYZ, kind of, again, more human side of the job. They'll drop something to make that 10, 15, 30-minute meeting happen. So I just encourage you guys to don't be afraid to ask questions, or find us on LinkedIn and have coffee, stuff like that. Again, we're here and we'll make time.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Brianna, Jack, and Nate, for all of the wonderful advice that you had for our students today. I thought that it was really helpful as an accounting student as well, and I feel like I learned something. So I feel like it was a great panel. That's all I had for you guys. So again, thank you for your time, and thank you to all of the students for showing up today.
Thanks, Erica.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks, guys.